Well, from Kenya, we go to Pretoria now to speak a little bit more about this story. Talks are underway on the future of Zimbabwe, and the man who has led the country for 37 years, Robert Mugabe, who's been under house arrest. There have been stories, though, today that he's been allowed to leave his residence. His motorcade was seen by some. He's been in control of the country since it overthrew white minority rule in 1980. We're now joined by Dr. Martin Rupiya, who formerly served in Zimbabwe's National Army. Thank you very much, and welcome to the program once again, Dr. Rupiya. When we last spoke, the events were that the army seemingly had taken control, and we weren't quite sure what's happened next. I'm not sure that we're any clearer today.
Well, what I think is taking place is a very careful calibration of the military event to try and align them to both the party and the national constitution. I think this is where the negotiations were seeking to perhaps convince the president to accept to resign from power. The reverse is, to maybe undertake, an out-and-out military coup, which will then have a response very negative from both the international, African Union and SADC. But I think what we see is encouraging in that not only are there negotiations taking place, but also the dialogue is in fact reflected not only that there is less support for the president, who has been going around Harare, and there are no crowds getting on the streets in support of the president, but accepting the fact that the inevitable has happened. This morning, or early yesterday, there were 100 civil society organizations that also called for the president to undertake a peaceful departure from office. So we are at that phase where I think we need to, everyone to remain calm, to allow the negotiations to take place, and perhaps to begin to chart the way forward.
Your thoughts on this proposed transitional structure that is pretty much made up of old ZANU-PF stalwarts that were with Mugabe right from day one, and many might be confused to think that there's been any change at all.
You are right, because the fear, if you look at the suggested characters for now, it looks like a political stitch-up. Certainly, the opposition comes as a footnote in terms of...
Should the opposition involve themselves in this? Carry on, Dr. Rupiya. Don't worry about what else you're hearing.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyway, I was saying that the characters that have been put forward may confuse the issues. I think you needed to keep it tight. The succession is happening within ZANU-PF. And of course, going forward, the suggestion is to create a platform that takes into account other actors. But for now, you see a regurgitation, as it were, of old actors, coming back and being rehabilitated. I don't think it reflects the sentiment that we are seeing on the ground. I think people would like to see, a fundamental change from the past. I mean, one reads the statement by the general, who acknowledges the lack of foresight, vision, and leadership in the last 5 years. But the point is that many people have actually been suffering for much more. So certainly, on first sight, the character suggested might weaken and even give the impression that this is a political elite stitch-up.
We're going to have to leave it there, but that was Dr. Martin Rupiya, formerly with the Zimbabwe National Army and now an academic. Francis?